Chapter 15. The Veteran. Thou wonderest of my fate. I'm not entirely sure myself. Could I simply not survive? Did Father cast me to the darkness for crimes that were not my own? I do not see the distinction. Father cursed us. What is one more death amongst the thousands? Vella, the Living Shadow, from Ruins of the Nest by Duchess Antenia. Osuna. For several minutes there was an awkward silence between Sol and me. Well, we both knew we had to say something, but not sure what. So, did anything terrible happen to you in your childhood? Sol sighed. I raised an eyebrow. Well, I grew up during a war, so... Yes, that makes sense. He cringed. I smoothed down my skirts and wished I'd put more thought into lacing my corset. Another awkward silence. So, Ruins of the Nest? I laughed awkwardly. Yes, you named your bow Petila. He did as well. Yes, I cringed. Is there anything else we can say? And you named your wand Lady of Shadows? Yes. After the character? Yes, you too? He sounded less awkward now, more relaxed. Yes. What do you think of her? His awkwardness was gone now, replaced by excitement. I thought for a bit. She can get a little annoying at times, but I see why she needs to exist. The little knight isn't emotional enough, and we need someone to understand the story. And the past is tragic. He laughed. This is Ruins of the Nest. Everyone has a tragic past. So, what do you think of the King of Roses and the Red Lady? Well, I understand why they did what they did, but that doesn't make it right. And it's understandable why they would retreat into the Palace of the Moon and the gardens like that. But they had a country to run. Of course, no conversation about them is complete without mentioning Petila. How do you think she died? He thought for a bit. The theory that she was killed makes more sense, but the theory that she just died means there are fewer murdered children. I nodded. Do you think the King of Roses died? He smiled. I think he was taking a nap when the little knight appeared and stabbed him to death. I laughed. I don't think it was the little knight, but I do think it has something to do with what happens in the Dark Ruins. Perhaps the shadows escaped and killed them out of revenge, but that conflicts with the idea that they do not have feelings, well, except Petila. Maybe what happened is just killed them. After all, the resplendence shows some traits with the king and queen, and caused the shadows his enemies during his villain monologue. He raised an eyebrow. You understood it? I shrugged. Well, about as well as I could read the sage's handwriting. And how well is that? I could read it after a few hours, with my help from the librarian. He laughed. Why is that so still surprising? Why do you think it was banned? I asked. He shrugged. I don't know. Maybe you don't like Petilas, magic, Potinans, or how hard it is to read. I don't think it's the last one. He's fine with Potinans. It's his soldiers that are the problem. Vokit said that too. I noticed a loud pounding sound, almost like a drum or... Who was I? So I looked to the northwest. I squinted. A large group of people was running in our direction. From that distance, the only color I could make out from the uniforms was white. But as it drew nearer, I noticed the blue and red too, the Vixik protest flag. It was a simple modification of the Vixik bicolor, adding a red stripe in the middle and turning the horn from grey to dark red, representing the blood of the people. Interestingly, it was one of the only flags to use the symbolism of red. Draco's red represented fire, Palatina's Draco, Nobia's apples, East and West Rose communism. Sinis was the only other notable example of red representing blood, but there was a promise of revenge, not sorrow for the fallen. Footnote. Nobia is a Lapusian province. Mexican sergeants, likely the remnants of the army, judging by the hats. I looked above these easy instructions, searching for the soldiers who were most certainly following them. As there they are. Fireballs sometimes appeared in the air, briefly illuminating the faces of citizen soldiers as they rained fire down on the insurgents. Svutok, they're coming straight for us, Sol said. Footnote, Zvutok is the Vixic word for 17. It is also a child/parent-friendly replacement for curse words. I nodded. You meant because they might try to talk to us, or the risk of incineration? I asked. Boss? I nodded. Understandable. What can we do here? I would rather not wake up everyone. I thought for a moment. How about you try to hide us with shadow magic, and I make a shield around us? Are you sure we could do that? It sounds hard. It is, but between losing consciousness and having a low risk of being incinerated, staying conscious and likely getting incinerated, I choose the former. He looked at me. What? I ignored him. They're almost there. Get ready. We stood up. He took out the Lady of Shadows and began conducting in triple time, counting to 9 under his press. Though it's not for the threat of getting set on fire, I would have asked him why he was making conducting motions, considering. Darkness came to cover us, shrouding us in the igloo and shadow. My turn. I took out the Staff of Wisdom, my heart pounding. I took a deep breath and thought of what I was trying to protect. Myself and my friends. I knew this was a risk. The shields were draining, but I did it anyway. We weren't about to come all of this way, some of us risking our lives to get here, just to be burned to death by a stray fireball. I thrust the staff into the ground and gripped it tightly, concentrating. So I'd done some reading on magical shields. I had no practice with them, nor with my staff. The magic hit me like a punch to his gut, and I nearly fell over, but I held my ground, digging my feet into the snow. The power of the staff could command made what I'd done with music seem like simple magician's tricks. A creek compared to the great Morilla river. I reached into the torrent, but it nearly swept me away. Once again, I almost lost my balance. Well then, try something different, I thought. I ran through what I tried on magic, and a call came to me. You do not control magic. You simply give it as a gesture. Supposedly, the wise of AoT. I thought of what I wanted to happen. A shield appearing above us. The river paused, then continued. Morilla. I tried again, this time thinking of why I wanted the shield. Footnote: Morilla is the 8th day of the Vella calendar, and traditionally a day off from work. It is also the Swedish word for crab crowd, and shoot, similar words to that. The river seemed to sigh, and then a spear of light appeared at the top of my staff, as if waiting for a command. Please, but stay within the shadows, I thought. Light shot from my staff above our heads, covering us on the igloo in a grayish-blue barrier. I concentrated on keeping it there. His igloo sounded exaggerated. Shields were draining. After less than a minute, I was beginning to tire and could still hear the pounding of footsteps. I worried that I might not be able to keep it up long enough. My lungs were burning, as if I'd been running for miles. I badly wanted to sit down, to rest, but I couldn't. I had to protect my friends. A fireball hit the shield. I staggered. I so stopped counting. Everything looked a little grayer, like when I'd been outside for a long time and had to readjust to the lighting inside, or when I'd closed my eyes for a long time and suddenly opened them. I was leaning against the staff, I realized. A second fireball hit the shield. I staggered again, and the shield dimmed. I concentrated. I realized I was sweating. Ow! It was snowing. I stood up straight again. My head spun. It felt like when I'd been sitting for a long time and suddenly stood. Reminded me a little of when I'd been sick. Had my glasses fallen off? No, that would look different. Everything blurred beyond recognition. But here, everything looked more shiny, blurry, but in a different way. The shapes were sharp, like actually sharp, and the colors were more muted. It seemed like everything was blowing into each other, but we saw some kind of border between them. Wish I could have some water. I knew none of this was a good sign, but I didn't care. I had to protect everyone. I was having trouble hearing the footsteps of the resistance now, but I could still feel them. Sounds seemed to fade in and out. I saw the fireball with the shield. This time it completely shattered. I fell back, my staff still in hand. I blinked and sat up, which seemed to blur everything even more. I thought I was going to throw up. I saw, or I thought I did, another fireball heading towards us. I summoned all of my remaining strength and used some of the snow to extinguish it. I didn't see if it worked. My vision blurred into darkness, and I fell back into the snow. Sol. Oh, Svultog, I thought. The shield was gone, and even if Athena were awake, I wasn't about to let her do that again. If a fireball came our way, there wasn't nothing I could do. I was already tired from using with shadow magic. If I attempted using water magic to deflect an attack, I might have ended up like her. Should I stop the shadow magic? It'll leave us exposed, but we already are. Besides, I need to get the Staff of Wisdom out of sight. I could wait for her to wake up, but who knows how long that might take. I might end up the same way before then, and then it would be really bad. I stopped conducting and stuffed the Lady of Shadows in my cloak. Then I ran to Athena as fast as I could. I quickly hid the staff in my cloak as well. I sat next to her, breathing heavily and watching the skies. The insurgents had passed, but a few soldiers were still following them. My heart sank as I saw Tguvs and fly down to where we were sitting. Oh, Svotok, talking. They can get me arrested too. Just great. They landed and I stood up. Brief Patokin, I said, trying to sound as calm as possible and thinking that I had failed miserably. Don't make the Tol Cechillo our friends. Don't do it. Footnote. Patokin is Draconic is the plural of Patok. What is going on here? One of them asked. He was the older of the two and pat his guard. Given that he looked old enough to have been a soldier in the Iron War, I guess he must have been a prisoner of war. I was here stargazing, and then this Trobritz showed up, and she sang some songs, and then just kind of fell asleep. Must have been a long day for her. That's the worst excuse I've ever heard. Oh, why did Juanka think this is a good idea? Sure, said the Verden. My hand went to Sunfall. What? To be honest, Rupiat, sounds like you were lying. His eyes brightened a bit and his voice darkened. I've much experience with lies. From the propaganda? I thought, suppressing a smile. That ain't a lie. Why would I be lying? I messed with the hilt of Sunfall. You look suspicious. You're a child. Sitting out there in the middle of the night with the silly girl next to you. It's funny for your sake. It's freezing out there. He smiled a bit. But then, you are only a Vixit boy. You probably would not be able to come up with something like this. Oh, spirits. I resisted the urge to glare at him or roll my eyes. As a younger soldier, he laughed at this very funny joke that wasn't at all overdone or stupid. Athena jumped to her feet and adjusted her glasses and hats and smoothed her skirts. Cities in old sequitur. It answers why you're suspicious of him, not why you would lie. Who are you? Peparuka? I thought. He turned his attention to her and said something in what I assumed to be Silish. The second soldier frowned. Good evening to you too, Athena frowned. Why isn't there a greeting for nighttime? It isn't evening anymore, but saying good night is a farewell. Not a greeting. Strange. The veteran smiled. Curious little poet. She blinked. Yes, a poet. Why did Warrenka think this was a good idea? I thought. So why did you come out here? She messed with her hair. I got lost. Yes. Well, little poet, could you sing us a song? Yes, I can. She thought for a moment. then began to chant in a lovely alto voice. I guessed it to be in mod 2. The system of mods we'd used for centuries is beginning to be uprooted by the modern major and minor. I didn't like this. There was so much that would be lost without mods. 8 options would be reduced to 2. And the range of emotions they evoke replaced with just happy and sad. So there was pushback, of course. Some just thought of them as more mods, calling the minor mod 7 for the authentic and mod 10 for the plagal, and major as 11 and 12. I hope the 12 mod group would win, so that there would become more options, rather than the only ones. Las lavus sonera, los There was something beautiful to me about monophony. I loved how exposed it was. There was no lines to hide behind. Everyone would know if there was a mistake or an intonation issue. Unlike polyphony, where everything blended until a wrong or out of tune note didn't sound like that. La misa de sono mesa. Los iveteruongon miles milas mas vagones esech noli juila nod loque las joanes deje chalbe joes las das nomes. Footnote, the translation of that is, as the heart desires the stream, so does my soul desire apples. My soul desires apples, when will I see you again? My tears are my bread day and night, as people say to me, where are your apples? The second soldier frowned. The first sighed. What is it with you people and singing about apples? I blinked. That was what it's about? Weird mode for a song about apples. Not as weird as Mod 1, I guess, but still. Mod 1 was mostly known for being what the funeral sequence was in, whose opening notes practically appeared in every opera whenever something bad happened. Well, with a short and anomaly, there was a group of very young soldiers who were very happy to find food, and that the composer among them. And everything after that is a parody of a reference to it, Athena said. Look, she spoke Steelish. Just a second, confused. Technically, she sang it, I thought. Athena ducked her head apologetically. My apologies. I thought Steelish would be easier to understand, other than Vosonian. What is the language of troubadours? Steelish is the language of music. Footnote, Vosonian is the language of the troubadours, evolving from the dialect of the Salish province of Voson. More like language of traitors and war criminals. The veteran muttered. Oh, spirits, I thought. Athena seemed to have figured out his past, but thankfully did not argue, looking at the ground and said, You have my deepest apologies. The veteran growled, his eyes smolder in embers. That does not change the past, nor that you are all the same lying, traitorous criminals, the murderers of my brothers and sisters. They will not rest until you are all brought to justice, until they can rest peacefully. Athena blinked. So, you're right that the treatment of prisoners during the Iron War was terrible, but why are you yelling at me for this? I wasn't born when this war started, let alone being of military age during the Iron War. His eyes only grew brighter. That does not matter. Yes, it does, I thought. He hit her with one talon and she was knocked into the snow. Svotok! Threw Sunfall and stabbed his wing, glaring at him. He shouted a curse. The second soldier hissed, and I recognized the sound of a dragon preparing to breathe fire. I tried to jump out of the way, but didn't move fast enough. A pain exploded across my back, and I was knocked face down into the snow. I bit back a scream and resisted the urge to roll onto my back. I turned my head and saw that Athena had scrambled to her feet, holding her knife Cecily in a shaky hand. Her grey eyes darted around, looking for an escape. Trobritz, the veteran scoffed. You are Lieutenant Dennis I've spoke of. I don't know who you are talking about. Athena met his eyes, somehow still sounding calm. Not toy with me. There are not many ferries in Vix, especially this close to the old border. There are only so many options. As my friend said, I am a traveling musician. The only thing I know about Lieutenant Oniska is our reputation. I wondered if she planned to see if her unwavering eye contact would unnerve him. Well, drop this charade. You are both liars. You claimed you were at Roberts, but you spoke Sillish with an Algerian accent. You criminals! And what crime did I commit? Despite the calm of her voice, her hand shook like a leaf in the wind. You know what? You are working with a traitorous soldier. You are... Before he could finish, Athena leapt onto his back. His wing, avoiding his back, covered in iron chainmail, and tried to stab his neck. She missed and fell off. She managed to uncurl her wings in time to slow her descent, but not fast enough to stop it entirely. Cecily slipped from her grasp and landed in the snow. She scrambled to her feet and picked up Cecily. The veteran grabbed her wrist and flung her onto his back. Her eyes went as wide as the moon's as she screamed, her calm demeanor finally broken by the pain of iron. She got free of his grasp and scrambled off, falling back into the snow. There was a clamor inside. I managed to turn my head to see that Juanca, Lucelus, and Pavokit had come outside. The first two still in their nightclothes, but wrapped in cloaks. What in Athena's name is going on here? Juanca said. Athena, are you all right? Lucelus called. I'm fine, Athena said, but her voice was still shaky. You! Juanca glared at the soldier. The only person who severely injures my brother is me and sometimes Elio and Lilia. The veteran noticed Pavokit, and recognition flashed in his eyes. His face twisted in a dark smile. It's cognac. So they were lying. Pavokit froze. Juanca blinked. You know him? He nodded. The second soldier moved to attack Pavokit, but Juanca jumped in front of him, brandishing Snowfall and looking quite fearsome for a girl in their nightclothes. He hissed, preparing to breathe fire. She and Pavokit jumped out of the way of his blast. As the soldier turned on me and raised his claws over my head. Do not move, or he dies. The veteran nodded approvingly. Now just come with us, and we will spare his life. And I am sure the Emperor will as well, Athena muttered dryly. She had regained her composure and was able to make her way to Juanca, Pavokit, and Lucelus. I nodded as best I could. She's right, don't do it. Juanca looked at me. You should do better than to convince your siblings to listen to you, Athena sighed. Juanca lunged forward and stabbed the soldier. But before he could react, Athena shot him, but it didn't do nothing, just bounced off the chainmail. She muttered something about arrowheads. The veteran sighed, walked swiftly to me and raised his talons. You really think you could win? Juanca shrugged. Yes? As if on cue, Pavokit shot fire at them, thankfully avoiding me. The soldier fled. The veteran followed him, but not before dealing another blow to Athena, knocking her down and sending her glasses into the snow before he crushed them. Athena sighed with relief, as if she had been squishing down all her fear, and now it was finally coming to the surface. Then she sat up, looked around, and made an annoyed little noise, picked up her frames, and then, more carefully, tried to gather up the pieces of the lenses. Wonderful. Are you two all right? Luce asked, her eyes wide with concern. It took Athena some time to find them. Likely bruised or missing clear vision, but other than that I'm fine, Athena said. Badly burned and I need a new shirt, or at least a cloak, I said. Luce began tearing away the burned scraps of fabric and treating the burns. Veronica tossed me her cloak. We will leave first thing tomorrow. Luce, you're taking the next watch. Wake up before Kitten after an hour. She nodded. Athena wrapped up the fragments of her glasses and put them in her cloak's pocket, then followed Pavokit and Veronica